Ni Tech na Msangi ya jishinde.com.
Hello there and welcome to this episode of Coding in AL, and today we are going to cover maybe the most important things that you should focus on when you want to become an efficient AL programmer. And I have at least 6 items here on my list that you should that we'll cover today, but doesn't mean that this is everything, but this is what I've come up with as the most important that you shouldn't oversee, because it will make you a better programmer faster. So the first thing that you need to cover, or you need to make sure that you are mastered, is the base application. Before you even start learning AL, before you focus on becoming a programmer in AL, the first thing is the base application, because the base application is what will give you the understanding first of, yes, I'm extending. This is an extensions model, as I have been saying. If you are extending, it's different from building an application from scratch. When you're building an application from scratch, you come up with the tables, the pages from scratch, what you want, you come up with the structure. But this is a structure that is already existing. So for such a structure, the first thing is to understand where the structure is. What is it about? Don't ignore this step. It's so important, because you'll find that you'll get requests from users that you should do something, you should create or maybe extend something for them, but it's already there in the base application, and if you don't understand it, you end up spending a lot of time trying to reinvent the wheel, yet it has already been done in the base application. This is important. Don't ignore this. If you're not conversant with being a user, go back to the base application and make sure that you're a user and you consistently apply the usage and of the application, and you keep reusing the application. The other point here, as point number 2, you should reuse default tables as much as possible in the base application. If you want maybe to add a drop down, you can use the resource table to add something that is related to the resources, and then you add a type. So before extending, you try and look at, is there an aspect of the base application that will fit this functionality that I want? Because once you get such an aspect in the base application or an area, you can make sure that you reuse it as much as possible. Don't rush to create, because I know, yes, you are a developer, you want to be creative, you like to create, but this is the extensions model where you are always focused on trying and looking at what can I extend instead of creating a new. Can I extend the locations table? Can I extend the resources table? Can the maybe item types, item attributes be used? Can I reuse this items table for, and I add a type for something that I would really like to add in form of items, instead of creating a whole new table, because it will make upgrades easier for your extension. Okay, can I reuse the currency table for this functionality that I want? Always be asking that question. And then the third thing that you should also do now as a developer, once you have got around the base application, you have been able to be a user. So if it's posting, make sure you have posted. Don't just look at the interface of the base application without applying, like posting routines. Make sure that you have done them. If it's probably what else, if it's sending reminders to customers, make sure that you have done it in the base application. It will really help you. So after you have done that, you go and study the syntax and master it. It's always good to start with the basics, the basic syntax of AL. How is this language? Okay, you might want to okay, the syntax is important. Just go to the basics of the syntax. Understand the data types that are existing, especially the data types that are there, the record data type, integer, big integer, the code, the variants, and how the data types are being used, the objects, the methods that are there, maybe the string method, string, substring, no format methods, how it's being used, the default functions that are there that can be used to do something for you. You might find by making sure that those basics are in tune with you, it will be easier to handle the strings, especially date functions. Make sure that the date functions, you have mastered them, because it's an ERP system and it's heavy on date times. Those are other basic syntaxes that you should make sure that you have handled. Trying to think, event subscribers, because we are extending as part of the syntax, event subscribers should not cross you. So the data types, the methods, and then the event subscribers, that's another important syntax that you should understand how web services work, because you'll need them to create extensions, or to create linkages, or to create web apps that will link to your AL applications. Understand the web services, and at least it won't take you long to get just the basics of how it works. From there, you can be able to pick it up. Then while you are doing your code, always test your application. Like, testing is the religion for AL. Remember, you are extending. Testing your application will enable you see if you have to make sure that you haven't affected the default functioning of the application. Is your extension clean in a way that it has not affected the normal way that the application has been working? Because if you extend a table and the table has issues, then the application will not work because of that particular table that you have added to maybe customer page. So the customer page is not opening because of your extension. So heavily testing your application and applying the automated tests or manual tests, whichever is fit for you. Make sure that you do that. And then for debugging, the debugger is your friend. If you are an AL developer, make use of the debugger heavily and use the debugger, because the debugger will enable you to see where the code is missing. You can be able to track the code. You can be able to see the values of the variables, whichever variable is missing, especially for these errors that, yes, it's not a syntax error, but it's not working. It's not working for one reason or the other. It's a logical error. For logical errors, the debugger is a really helpful tool that will even enable you understand the nature of the errors that will be generated. Because when you come from another language, maybe C# and PHP, you need to also understand the nature of the errors that the debugger is throwing, because you'll see the date is undefined. For instance, if you are passing a blank date to calc date, then it will throw an error, and you might not know if there is a date that is blank in a specific function. So making use of the debugger will enable you see which variable is generating a null for a date that might need to be done in the appropriate way. And then lastly, make sure that you imitate what Microsoft has done in terms of pages, in terms of tables, in terms of code units. Especially, for instance, if you're using the customer page, you're creating a customer page, what has Microsoft done in terms of the page actions? What is the order that they have used? And you use that same order first before you start inventing what you feel is right. That is even it's a very important thing that you should do, because what Microsoft does is they use the best practices in all the different applications that they make. Any module that they create, they use the best practices. So for you to create your own module, make sure that you copy them in a way that you use what they have done. Make sure that your page should be similar to a Microsoft page, because even when you tell the users that you have extended it, they won't even feel that this is an extension, because they will see so much similarity in the icons that you have used, the buttons that you have used. Don't put a customer icon that uses an icon that is like an icon that is not related to a customer, because they'll be like confused. Yes, this is the icon, but the meaning is different. And so that's what I've come up with. There some few points that you can add to your list as you start your journey. Make sure that you follow it, because it will really help you as a developer to shorten your learning curve. And I believe that's the aim for all of us, to have a learning curve that is not as big or as very steep learning curve, but we want to learn in the most efficient way possible and be able to create great applications. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video, and may God bless you.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss the next one.